Greetings. Tonight we are on episode 21 of Lines on a Page, and I'm your host, Thomas Bryce. And yeah, we're going to be drawing Spawn today, which is a character that I don't often draw a lot. Most reason being is that a lot of other people draw Spawn, and it's no offense whatsoever. It doesn't hurt me at all. But he is one that on occasion I will doodle in my sketchbook off and on here and there, and I just felt like, you know what, let's just go ahead and do an entire episode dedicated to drawing Spawn, working on some different kind of light sources, and also really hammering into the fact of him being kind of the boogeyman type character. But first and foremost, we are going to go ahead and do a little bit of some housekeeping. Haven Comics is located 1821 Slaughter Road in Madison. And if you happen to like this show and any other show that happens to be going on, please remember to like and subscribe, follow, click the little bell notification so you can get notifications whenever we just happen to be going live, or whenever I'm doing anything on social media, in which you're trying to figure out where you can find me on social media. Well, you can find me through Linktree, or you can find me under my handle, tpriceartworks, which if you're looking at the screen right now, it's actually right there. I wish I had like some fancy little thing that could just like, but alas, don't have that. So, looks like we've got Mr. Breedlove in the house. Spawny Spawniers, our man. If you can't, no one can. If no one knows what that is actually a reference to the Spawn film from 1997, which it's one of those films where it's like you can't really love to hate it, but you can't really hate to love it. But it's definitely a fun popcorn film, I would say. I feel like the best iteration of Spawn was actually the animated HBO series, which last I checked, I believe it's still on HBO Max. I'm not sure if that was one that got pulled off whenever they were trying to clean out a bunch of stuff. I know that the animation side took a big hit, but considering that it's an HBO property, I would assume that it's still on HBO Max. If it's not, please let me know. I do know for a fact that you could probably find a ripped copy of it on YouTube, because actually that was the first time that I was able to watch that since the last time that it aired. But yeah, I actually did recently rewatch the Spawn animated series, I think about 2 years ago. It just happened to be on a weekend that I just happened to have off, and it just made sense to sit down and watch that just for old time's sakes, and it still holds up. Keith David did an amazing job voicing Al Simmons. I don't think that they got John Leguizamo to voice Vindicator or the Clown. I don't think they got him to voice him. I think they got someone else. But yeah, it was definitely a great show. Had a lot of potential, and definitely follow the comics a little. I mean, of course, they cut corners and abridged everything down, but they did follow it slightly to the letter, almost. At least the first couple of issues. So I know that there's with Spawn going on right now in the comics. I want to say it's like issue 300 something right now. I want to say it's like in the 330s, I think. Alan, you might be able to answer that question a lot better than I can. But as of right now in the Spawn universe, Spawn is, if I remember correctly, he's now dubbed as the King of Hell. Which there is a King Spawn series that's kind of offshoots itself from the main storyline, and there's also a couple of other characters in the Spawn universe, if you will, which we do have. I want to say that they brought back Medieval Spawn, And of course, there's Gunslinger, there's the Scorched, who is technically she spawn, and a couple other characters that also got introduced into it. And if I remember correctly, Al Simmons. Okay, so it's issue 338. Is where it's at right now. Okay, so I was close. If I remember correctly, I want to say Al Simmons stopped being Spawn for a while, and someone else took over. And then Al Simmons came back to being Spawn. And I could be totally reading that wrong, but yeah, I think that's the main consensus right now is that Gunslinger and King Spawn have been the best two titles. However, I will say this though, I really enjoy seeing Carlos Barberi doing all of the panel work for the newer Spawn stuff. And the only reason I'm saying that is that I feel like he's got the cartooniness that kind of mimics stuff that Greg Capullo does. Obviously, Greg, he's got his own style. He does his own thing, and he was a good person to take over the panel duty, which means that McFarlane was able to focus on the writing. But yeah, I definitely enjoyed seeing. Well, it looks like we got some technical difficulties on my end. I think everything is back on. Yeah, okay. Having some weird Wi-Fi issues over here at the store. Go figure. But we will trudge through. But yeah, today I was thinking about light sources, and actually 2 days ago I did a reel that's actually on my Instagram and Facebook, and it's of Nancy from Sin City, and I was dealing with doing negative space. Now, I won't be doing negative space on this episode. I'm actually going to be doing it on next week's episode on this Venom black cover. But, and I'll be talking a lot more in depth regarding negative space, but it did make me think about light sources and wanting to do something a little bit different than how I typically draw Spawn, which I usually like the animated series. I like to leave them a bit in the shadows as the boogeyman, basically. Whereas with today's, I'm actually going to be thinking about the light source being from the bottom going up, which is typically a light source that you usually see whenever someone's trying to tell scary stories at a campfire with the flashlight right in front of them, or someone has opened up something that's a little bit more revealing and kind of gives off the effect of either good surprise or horrific surprise. And I typically enjoy looking at Spawn in the sense of, he is technically undead. And he is, from hell. So it makes sense for us to be not looking at him how he was originally drawn, which is with I would say a very, I don't know, Halloweenish Spider-Man mask. We're actually going to be looking at it, not really in the sense that how Javier Fernandez draws him in King Spawn, but I do kind of want to bring in back that undead element that we all kind of see regarding with Al Simmons. And I didn't really even think about this when I was planning out stuff for this month and shows for the next coming months, that, it's technically Black History Month, and Al Simmons being a Black character, it's just almost kind of, it just worked in itself. So we are going to zip over to the drawing board. As you can see, I zipped over. And we're going to enlarge this just a bit. And so, like I said, we're going to be focusing on a light source that's going to be from the bottom, and it's going to be making its way up top. And considering that, Spawn's abilities and stuff like that are usually very, I mean, it's basically magic or sorcery of some effect. So we are going to be using a lot of greens, and basically we're going to be using a lot of warm and neutral colors, kind of mixing in here and there. Um, but per always, we are going to have him facing a little bit more forward, but kind of looking down a little bit. His hand's kind of glowing, so that's going to give off the magic effect, if you will. And of course, that light source is going to be coming from the magic effect, and it's going to be kind of, like I said, from the bottom up. So we're going to be getting a lot of different shadows and textures that what I'd normally have been doing on the show, which is usually light sources coming from whichever way that the character happens to be facing. So I'm actually going to scoot him a bit over. Yeah, like I said, I've always enjoyed drawing Spawn. The few times that I put him in a sketchbook, or if someone asked me to do something as far as like commission work or something like that. And Kirby Crackle, uh, mm, we shall see. I know that I want to do more of the effects with a lot of the blending of a couple different shades of green, but we shall see. Yeah, I've always enjoyed, uh, a few times that I actually ever get around to drawing the character, um, off of my own. And whenever I do, I typically like to draw him, kind of like the animated show. He's always in the shadows, and it's not until he actually does confront you that you actually see the horror that's underneath. I've always loved that direction when it comes to Spawn. Um, and it's no offense to previous artists, no offense to McFarlane or Capullo or Barberi or anyone else that has. I think Steven Segovia has also drawn him as well. I know Brett Booth has, and it's no offense to those guys whatsoever. It's just it kind of takes away the mystery of the character himself when he's just always out front and center. You know exactly what his face looks like, and it does take away the boogeyman effect. Yeah, so like I said earlier at the beginning of the show, to the United States, so smash that like button and please subscribe and also click the little notification bell so you can always get notifications whenever we happen to be going live, either on YouTube or on Facebook. And also, I believe Twitter as well. Sorry, not Twitter, Twitch. And before anyone asks, no, I'm not on Twitch. I had thought about it at one point, um, and it's just I think I'm just a little bit too late to join that game, which is totally fine. Uh, let's see here. I'm going to be checking. Where is it? Just thinking about the his cape because I know that sometimes the skulls are a little bit too close together and sometimes it's not. So, um, going to have the little skull medallions right here and here. And the funny part is that I was actually thinking about just totally drawing the character in the shadows originally. And yeah, it wasn't until yesterday when I was working on that Nancy Callahan uh, sketch for certain patron here and also a frequent client, uh, Mike Weslowski, which I have no idea, Mike, if you're actually going to be watching this episode at any point, but super glad that you had picked that up. Yeah, let's see here. Hmm. Oh, I know what I'm going to do. Okay, so since he's technically the king of hell, I think I'm going to have him magically create a crown, if you will, kind of a ghostly sort of thing within his hands, looking like he's about to. So, um, and there's no offense whatsoever to Javier Fernandez. I do like the more, sinister, looking spice and stuff like that that he has in King Spawn, but you know, the being that's undead is basically has an almost uh umpteenth potential for creating anything out of magic. So I mean, why not? Which I think the weird thing is that when I was reading, or I should say rereading, first couple of spawn trades that I have, I feel like the timeline is a bit off, and I could be wrong. I just, for some reason, in my head, I just felt like whatever the countdown is that it's going to, which I'm assuming it's like Armageddon or something like that, um, that it should have been a lot sooner than where it is right now. And let's see here. Into where's my? Um, hmm, I think kind of a mix between the spike protrusions and kind of a crown of thorns, magical crown of thorns, if you will, just to show off the more sacrilegious side that Spawn is known for. Hey Tots, how you doing? Let's see here. So when we're thinking about this whole, top-down kind of situation, we have to be a little bit more mindful and I guess cognitive, if you will, about how we're placing the light source. And since I kind of want him to have a bit more of a, undead skull looking face, um, we're going to be, in some ways, drawing a skull. And it really pays off taking a anatomy and physiology class for any young person out there that is really wanting to take a career in art and wanting to do anything regarding it. If you happen to be in high school, uh, please take an anatomy and physiology class. It will help you immensely. And the reason I'm saying that is you will have a better grasp on just anything regarding just trying to draw people better. If you're really wanting to do anything regarding horror, you know that skeletons and stuff like that is you're going to have to do it at some point. Um, so and I will say this though, you can definitely tell when an artist does not have a good grasp in terms of like understanding bone structure. Because there's been several times where I've seen people draw like armies of skeletons and stuff like that, and or sorry, they've drawn a character that is, well, yeah, I'm going to say armies of skeletons. And it's one thing if it was just like, you see an army of skeletons, like Jason the Argonauts, for instance. Like, let's say someone's doing a comic involving that, and you're drawing like an army of skeletons, and they're all coming at Jason the Argonauts. And unfortunately, some of these skeletons have like, I don't know, like 26 ribs in their rib cage, and or just like some unnatural amount of ribs, and it's just like you could have at least done just a little bit of homework regarding just drawing a rib cage, uh, or they accidentally put the femur instead of the tibia and all this sort of stuff. So it's just random crap like that. Which unless it was just like the skeleton was put together super quick by magic and they were trying to cut corners, makes sense. But it's one of those things where it's just like you could have at least understood the assignment. Um, but at the same time, I'm saying all this stuff, and I'm pretty sure there's going to be someone out there who's going to be, judging uh, exactly what I'm doing. Uh, so I'm trying to get this part down. And that was actually something from the 90s that I just did not understand is the amount of teeth that they would give characters. Like, some of them, it was just like, it might as well have been a whale with just a bunch of like brine right down there. Uh, and of course, yeah, I'm kind of making fun of characters like, which, okay, they are, alien characters and, demonites and all that sort of stuff. So, fictional characters, yeah, I get it, but it's just like Yes. God, will it let me click on this? Yes, Alan, you are. We know. It shows. Um, but my whole thing is when it comes to teeth, as long as you can get the first uh, 6 to 8 in a row, and it's usually the first two, regardless if it's top or bottom, the first two are basically going to be flat, and then your canines are right after that, and then everything else just kind of falls in place with molars. And so if you're ever wanting a little bit of a cheat, there you go. Now, I want to double check um, how I'm going to do this light source real quick. So typically, Spawn's eyes are kind of a glowing green sort of thing, and it's not your typical skull socket. So, because we're dealing with light source down here, up there, or sorry, down here going up. And of course, not everyone's teeth are the same. Um, so always have to keep that in consideration. But just for like the bare, if you're drawing human skeletons, it would make sense for a person to at least understand that. Um, so yeah, I have to block this out accordingly. But I do want to have a different thing going on with the eyes. Because, like I said, it's not a complete skull, but, he is technically an undead character. So I have to cut some corners here and there. And I'm actually going to have to find that One King Spawn reference that I have. The weird part is that he still has his trademark uh, white thing going on. It's typically attributed with the face mask. So let me go ahead and get that blocked in. Which I feel like, if we're being completely honest, I feel like that's a holdover from McFarlane's Spidey Venom days that just happened to seep over into what he was doing with this character at Image. Let's see here. I'm actually going to have to redo this jawline yet again. Don't think I was angling this enough. Last thing I want to do is make a skeleton happy. I think. All right. So we're going to be blocking this part off. We'll be Blocking that off. And we're going to be showing off a little bit of the white of this, signature mask look thing. So we are going to have bits of that kind of peeping in just a little bit, not a lot. So, which I mean, his face mask is practically black anyway. So, um, which may seem counterintuitive for someone, but what do you know? All right. So we're going to be focusing on the really weird hand things going on. Versus say weird hand things, and it's his hands, but some ways they do have some kind of claw edge thing going on. Oh man, it's Tom McFarlane. I mean, it's just now the interesting thing is that even though the light source is going to be from the bottom up, the staring that his hands are going to be kind of so. I want to use this as an example. So if I'm looking at dead on, he's trying to form or magically create the crown before he sticks it on his head. It would stand the reason that at least the top part of the hands and the beginning parts of the fingers are going to be darker because it would be kind of in shadow and the light source is both going out in a sense. So we're going to try to mimic that to an extent. So works if we at least try to block in the fingers. Now, if I remember correctly, I want to say one of his arms has more of a gauntlet, and the other one doesn't. Yeah, it's the right arm. Okay. Which, by looking at the camera, it would be on the left side, but it is the right arm. And looks like I got a couple more comments over here. Are you doing a full face mask or just shoelace holding the face together kind of mask? Kind of doing a bit of I don't really want to say a shoelace holding the face together kind of situation. I'm looking at it more in the sense of, the face mask that he's given is also his face, because he is technically an undead character. So it just kind of made sense just to do kind of a mishmash, whatever. So it just kind of made a little bit of sense to me to be doing it this route to give off the more nightmarish effect. Hey, Jay. little bit. Right. And let's see. Okay, so it's only makes it up to the pectorals. All right. Actually, I say it covers more of the knuckles on this side. Spikes galore. It would not be Spawn without the equivalent of a medieval torture rack on all those gauntlets and arm spikes and everything else. All right. Now we're going to get into, again, the more interesting part of just dealing with light sources and where it's going to go. Which spawn that I'm doing tonight? Technically, it's Al Simmons. I kind of like how he's portrayed in King Spawn in terms of having a crown and stuff like that, but instead of an actual physical protrusions coming out of the head, I was thinking more of like a crown made of magic. I just seems to fit the character. Is Cape sentient apart from Spawn? That's a good question. Part of me feels like the cape is just part of the necroplasm, which he is in control of it. Um, I don't feel like it's the cape from like say Doctor Strange, for instance, where it is like a magical item that has some sentience to it. Um, so I want to say the cape in and of itself is just another part of the necroplasm that he's able to control through whatever sorcery powers that he happens to have. Which, I mean, if we're really thinking about it, uh, actually, you know what? I was this is several years back. I watched a video on YouTube, and it was actually Spawn versus Guts from Berserk. It was one of those like death matches kind of thing, whatever. And title alone sounds like it would be an equal match, but when it kind of boils down to it, is that Guts is technically a person that kills anything that is demonic whatsoever, that comes out from the depths of hell, in which Spawn is technically a hell spawn. He does from Hell's army. So I mean, it's kind of gets into a no brainer where Guts is going to win. But uh, they were listing off like power sets and all that sort of stuff. So when they started talking about the necroplasm, and I was thinking about the comics, the movie, the HBO series, the cape is just a part of the armor that he's able to create and form as he wills, uh, if he has the energy to do it. Unless there's a issue out there where we have found out that the cape actually does have its own sentient ability to it. Please let me know which issue it is because I would like to try to hunt it down and read it. But as far as I can remember, I've always felt like, and this is just going off of random memory banks, that it's just a part of the armor that he creates. Bring this spike down just a bit. Which I think the main set of, like, you have to have the three things when it comes to like a 90s image character. You have to have pouches, have to have chains, have to have spikes, or some combination of the three. Uh, then I think at some point they just realized it only works for some of the characters and not all of them. Uh, and so you started seeing some changes in the wardrobes with some of the characters. All right, so if he's doing his abracadabra thing, of trying to create, you know, some sort of, crown out of magic. So it would stand to reason that with the light source being from bottom up, that it's also kind of going out as well. So it is going this way, but it's also kind of going a little bit here. It's going a little bit there, out here, out there, there, there. You get the idea. It works within a three-dimensional space, and we kind of want to bring that three-dimensional space within this 2D piece of paper. Well, I mean, it is. You get what I mean. It's a 2D plane that we're trying to create a 3D um, aspect to it. Dynamics within the static. So we would be having this going on with the shadows. We've got this. And this is actually kind of safe little science experiment that you can do at home. Well, there's going to be that one person that's going to take the extra mile and end up hurting themselves in the process. So please be careful when you're doing it. But take a light bulb, turn it on in a dark room, and kind of like put your hands over it, I guess. And you'll see exactly what I'm trying to do here, in the sense of like the back part of the hand, because it's facing towards us, is going to be technically in shadow, whereas the palm side is going to be glowing because it's creating the magic and all that sort of stuff. And there's going to be reflection coming off of the spikes as well. But if we're being perfectly honest, I've always preferred the spikes and the chains and all that sort of stuff to be rusty, worn, looks like it's been dragged through, hellfire and brimstone. Um, so it's kind of a bit of a juxtaposition whenever you see the character. When McFarlane is just putting him out, and then when like Capullo takes over, because it's like, it's a great costume design, uh, and there's technically nothing like it in Western comics. But Capullo just understood the assignment. It was just like, okay, undead dude comes from hell. We're going to make it as grimy as possible, and he does it. And of course, whoever was doing the colors at the time also understood the assignment with what Capullo was doing. Uh, yeah, leather jacket and loads of belts for sure, but you got a minute when you look down to it, it's really a lot of those comics, especially with the '90s image stuff. Almost every single one of them have pouches, even when they shouldn't. They had chains, even when had no effect to the character whatsoever, because they weren't using them. Well, of course, I say this, and of course, you've got characters like from what's his name? Blood Wolf, I think that was his name. I think he want to say it was kind of like a Lobo looking kind of character. Um, of course, he used his chains and spices and his advantage, and of course, the character Chapel from Young Blood, um, several other characters. And of course, yeah, but yeah, you're not wrong. Leather jackets and loads of belts for sure, and bullet belts for characters that don't even carry guns. They're shooting like magic lasers out of their arms and stuff like that, but you got bullet belts. Be adding glowing eyes. I thought about it. I probably will. We can fit it in. We can make it happen. Technically, you are right. He should be having, some sort of like glowing eyes going on. But all right. So we're going to be lightly erasing the outline. Just a little bit. Because once I start putting colors on this, I'm going to be using the markers as, gradient effect and stuff like that. So I'm not exactly what TV shows or series that you guys are watching now. Uh, I've actually finally got around to watching Bones, which is pretty apt considering the fact that I'm drawing an undead character. Um, which, if anyone is watching, they don't know what the show is. It's loosely based off of a character by an actual forensic anthropologist. The author's name and anthropologist, her name's Kathy Wrights. But in the book series that she writes, which is based off of some true events and crimes that she happened to end up solving, the character's name is Temperance. What's the last name? Temperance Brennan. That's the name. But her nickname is Bones, given to her by her FBI partner, Booth. And I never actually got around to watching that show. And I kind of hate the fact that I missed out on watching it, at least at the time that it did come out. I'm glad that it lasted as long as it did. So I've got probably about like 8 or 9 seasons to watch. It's a heavy amount, but um, definitely been enjoying it. I think I'm on season 3 right now, where they're getting into um, this supposed secret society that happens to have kind of like a Sith rule of tool of Sith rule of tool, a Sith rule of two, where they have like a master apprentice scene, but they're actually cannibals. But it deals with like some weird sect of secret society that uh, takes like uh, Mason teachings and all that fun stuff. Um, so yeah, I've been definitely been enjoying that. It's been interesting that it's gone in that direction, even though there are like actual crimes going on. But every now and then there'll be an episode that will tie in with like the overall bad guy for this particular season show, and definitely been enjoying it. I had been watching White Collar. Um, I don't know. I'm just a sucker for whodunits, I guess. But yeah, so definitely been enjoying that. Definitely been seeing some really interesting, cases and different ways of, determining, who did what with a cold case or, uh, you know, fresh murder scene or something like that. So yeah, it's definitely been a fun show. I was actually talking about that with Alan on Friday. That it actually really doesn't start to pick up uh, when you first start watching it until like maybe episode 5, I think. Uh, and the only reason I'm saying that is that the characters are trying to find their footing, so it makes sense for this show to be heading in that kind of direction, if you will. But decent amount of laughs. Uh, Emily Deschanel has done a great job playing the character, And Borneas, I forgot his first name. He played a vampire and Buffy the Vampire Slayer. He played Angel. That's who he played. And really enjoyed it so far. All right. Here is where it's going to get interesting. And that's going to be putting in the colors and making it work the way that I'm picturing it in my head. So where is there it is. Trying to clean up as much of these just extra pencil lines as much as possible because it's going to be less extra work that I have to do in order to put all this stuff together once I just start slapping in these colors. David Borneas, that's his name. I've actually heard a lot of good things about the Navy SEAL show uh, that he's been on as of late. Um, so maybe at some point I'll get around to that, but unfortunately, it's not today. All right, so like I said at the beginning of the stream, we're going to be doing a copia of a lot of warm and neutral tones mixed in with a little bit of the cool colors as well, which you like cool colors. Well, all colors are cool if you think about it. But jokes aside, looking at it in the aspect of cool colors being your blues, your greens, your purples and violets, warm colors being reds, oranges, and yellows and pinks. Fuchsias, if you want to add in that as well. But we're going to be doing a bit of a smorgasbord and trying to make it all tie in as much as possible. So the last thing that I want to do is put the wrong kind of tone where it really just doesn't really need to be. So what I'm thinking is that more neutral side of the colors, they're going to be more so on, some of the neutrals and some of the cool colors. It's going to be on the face and the hands, the spikes and stuff like that, and then some of the warmer colors being more so with the cape, which with the reds of the cape, it's actually going to be a lot darker than how it's actually going to be portrayed, just because I'm using a really strong red and then a really dark red on top of that for added shadow effect, which hopefully the majority of the rest of it, shoppy, this week. Want to keep that horror effect going on. So I don't want to do just a straight on white with the white part of the insignia going on. Because I am going to be putting in some like green in there just for added glow effect and stuff like that. But I am going to put a little bit of the more neutral gray in. then someone in for the mask. We'll be building up these layers. Swap over to my favorite end, the chisel end. I think for like a later show, you know, later down in terms of like the next 4 months or whatever, more likely I'll be doing Gunslinger. I feel like it's an interesting character. Obviously, uh, really cool design. Kind of harkens back to the days of OG Ghost Rider. He was just kind of a wandering ghost in the plains. So the reason I'm going to be doing these neutral grays on the suit is mainly because I don't want the black to be fully black. I do want to build up to that black as far as just having that really drastic kind of effect. So it only makes sense for us to have these moments and then mixing in some of the green as well from the glow. So I'm not sure if there's, of course, there's been so many iterations of the Hellspawn armor, throughout the saga of the character. And I'm kind of wondering if there was ever one where he was like in ancient Egypt. I've always felt like that would have been an interesting kind of character because I know that there's like the more medieval Spawn and his interaction with going against the Witchblade, or at least trying to hunt it down. I think they just end up kind of teaming up for a bit. I always felt like this would be perfect for that kind of character, that kind of time period. I think it would work well. All right, now we're going to be swapping over on warmer gray tones. We're going to be doing it on section of the armor because I'm going to be making it a little bit on the grimy side by interjecting some browns and stuff like that. And while I know that it's actually more of a red on the gauntlets, kind of whites having more of a brown. I feel like that kind of rust element seems to fit and tie in a bit more what I like to do. All right. So let's go ahead and start interjecting all this green so we can get that mapped out. Then we'll move on to the red of the cape, and then we'll start throwing in all of that black at the very end, just to tie it all. And the reason that I'm doing all of these colors first before putting in stark black is because if I do the blacks first and then I start putting in color, things just get messy. Um, I used to do it that way, do all my inks first and then throw in the color. And there will be that one section that you think is completely dry and then reactivates the ink and it just smears it, which would be a cool effect if that's what you're going after. But since that's not the case whatsoever, um, it just stands to reason, but not do that whatsoever. um, so I haven't fully received the light green that I have ordered. So this one is actually my runner-up, and it does pair well. Eh, every now and then, but it technically does pair well with the other greens that I have. Um, I think, anyways. It's actually more of a, bluish green kind of thing. I know that uh, whoever it just happens to be doing colors, they tend to go more for more of this kind of green, which we are going to build up to that. So not all is lost. We're also going to be interjecting some white into it as well. That's just later on in the whole phase. And makes sense to hold off on that. Using the gradation method actually does help. I believe so. I personally enjoy it. Um, really had zero issues so far. When I was first learning it, it definitely took me a while because I would go over, I guess, the wrong thing, and I guess not really knowing what I was doing at first. Um, but having, that bringing in that gradient and trying to create layers, I personally feel like it helps. And I kind of equate it as kind of in the same venture as like painting miniatures. I feel like I've had a much better understanding of color theory ever since I started painting miniatures during 2020. I mean, I knew what I was doing as far as just understanding color theory, but it wasn't until I was actually like painting with like acrylic paint and not using markers that I was really starting to see the effect of a gradient, seeing how it's all piecing it together, and it was just like, so I'm pretty sure someone out there is going to like edit this video is going to be just that and put it up on YouTube. I'm looking at you, Alan. um, but yeah, it's really starting to make me feel a little bit more confident in my color choices and uh, understanding what I want to do whenever I'm putting this stuff together. yeah, if you ever want to have a humbling experience of, trying to understand color theory, paint Warhammer minis. It's going to give you a lot of patience and a whole new perspective. Just in those happy little happy little necroplasms. Now the jarring thing is that I'm going to be using red as well, which red and green nightmares for those who just happen to be colorblind. But the reason that I chose a more, I guess, darker, saturated reds for this is that, still keeping it within the whole realm of, you know, spooky and all that fun stuff. Here and And we'll be mixing in some of this red with the brown, then going over it again, some of the brown. All right. Talks by the Bay. Hey, hey, hey. What's up? What's up? And thank you. All right. Now that we got the greens out of the way, I'm going to be going back over some of the gray. Just as a nice little layer. Jumping back down to the. All right. Well, thanks for stopping by.
Always appreciated.
All right. Okay. I think last but not least, I'm going to be doing want to do some sort of gray for the background before I have to put in all this black. So let us, I think a warmer color would be appropriate. All right. Now for the piece of resistance, l'échappée. Oui. All right. This is where we start getting into the whole separating the men from the boys kind of situation. Not saying that I can't fix a mistake if it happens, but the object of the game right now is not make a mistake. Um, so since I said earlier, stuff that we were trying to block in earlier, which normally I would be a little bit tighter in terms of the lines with doing stuff like this. I think I've just been
little bit more relaxed than usual. I think part of that to blame is just from doing all of the femme fatale stuff. Um, I've just been super involved with, having to do that every day. So getting both tighter and not so tight with my lines. And I actually had this question yesterday after I was posting stuff with Nancy Callahan because I used, a chisel Sharpie to do all of the finer lines and stuff like that. And I think one of the questions was basically get that really weird, uh, super strong scent thing that would cause someone to get like a headache or a high or whatever. And both regular Sharpies and the chisel ends really don't bother me with the smell. I mean, obviously it still does smell, but in comparison to like the giant Magnum size Sharpies, it's not as bad. can erase away some of these lines, even though they've been markered over. This one's about to die out on me. Slop it over. Yep. I was right. Yep. Yep, I did. Uh, going to have to do another pass over it. Uh, just the black ink. Yes, I did. And here's when Devil gets into the details. So we're going to be throwing in some white ink as well, just to add to the effect of just, magic and all that stuff. And we're going to be smearing some of it as well. I know that sounds very kindergartnerish. It's really the only way I can think of. Oh, come on. Yep. Where is, there it is. See where you're going for now. Previously confused about spawns. White haircut. It's the light coming off. Yeah, that's basically what I'm trying to do. It's just light source is coming from the bottom. It's coming up, and also kind of out at the same time. I feel like unless I've got like a case of aerosol, it's kind of hard for me to get rid of the spawn logo in the background. Could have done the black around it, but uh, it's just not what I was going for. Let me put this thing together.
All right, we are done. But last but not least, always signed. Ta-da. All right. Thank you again for everyone that happened to be watching, commenting into the chat. See, we've got several likes and reacts going on within the video. Thank you so much. It means a lot. So yeah, as you can see, Spawn magically creating the crown before he crowns himself as King of Hell. Oh. So this was definitely an interesting exercise, not just for me, but just for you, the viewer, to actually be seeing that there's more than one way to skin a cat whenever it comes to trying to do light sources and creating effects, especially when you're trying to blend in colors and then kind of doing the process in reverse, if you will. Like I said, next week we are going to be doing Venom on a black cover, and we're going to be getting into negative space and talking about negative space and trying to approach doing that with Venom. So it's mainly just going to be a lot of white ink over a black cover. So it's going to be interesting for to be talking about that because that's something that I absolutely love doing. But that's going to be next week. Won't spoil all of that. So, last but not least, we're going to be doing the final housekeepings of the day. Haven Comics is located at 1871 Slaughter Road, Suite F, Madison, Alabama, and it is open from Wednesday through Sunday. Which also, by the way, the Huntsville Comic Pop Expo is going to be coming up on April 21st through 23rd. I believe that's the dates for it. I know it's the last weekend in April, but anyways, Haven Comics is actually selling the physical tickets there. So if you want to pick up either a single day or a weekend pass, we do have them. Please, like I said, from Wednesday through Sunday, we will have the store be open and available for you to stop on by after noon. Is when we open. So come in, get your tickets. It's going to be pretty much a stack lineup, and you might also see me in the Artist Alley. So I will be there for all 3 days. Please remember to like and subscribe. Every like, subscription, follow, share, saves, whatever it is, retweets, whatever. All that helps us out immensely. It doesn't matter if it's on Facebook, if it's on YouTube, if it's on Instagram, whatever. All of that really helps us. And even if you're wanting to try to find me on social media, you can like and follow me through at tpriceartworks, all one thing. And so I'm on practically almost every social media outlet you could possibly think of. But if you happen to be watching me on YouTube, I am on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, as well as Tumblr, Hive, Mastodon, if you want to follow me there as well. All right. Now, Jay, not everyone happens to be watching the show, and I will see you next Sunday.